Chantelise is an action role-playing game that was developed by Easy Game Station, who are probably better known for making Racketeer and Item Shop's Tale. Both of the games have a lot in common with each other. For instance, both of the games are named after a combination of the main characters' names, there are some reused item sprites, and one of the pair is a fairy. This is another game that has some weird resolution settings, at least by modern standards. So if anything looks wonky, it's because I had to do some scaling to record it for the video. The visuals for the game are trying to emulate the look and feel of a PlayStation 1 game. The environments and bosses are the only things that have 3D models, and everything else is a sprite. Most of the regular enemies you face are on the cutesy side of things. The mushroom enemies in particular remind me of the ones from the Kirby series. There's also a lack of variety in the enemies you face. Expect to see a bunch of them being recolored or having their size adjusted the further in the game you get. As far as the audio goes, I don't really remember anything standing out. The music all sounds fairly generic. It's not out of place, but if you played it to me now, I wouldn't remember that it's from this game. The voice acting is all in Japanese, except for when a few spells are cast. The plot of the game is that two sisters are drawn out into the night during a blood moon and are then cursed, turning one of them into a fairy. The only way to break the curse is to find a witch. Other than that, all I remember from the plot is being threatened with having my shins obliterated and something to do with a donut. The game starts off with a tutorial, and it covers the basics fairly well. For melee combat, you have a basic attack that chains up to 3 times. There is a lock-on system similar to the ones in Dark Souls or the 3D Legend of Zelda games. There's also a dash move you can do by pressing attack and jump at the same time, which you need to get used to using it a lot because it helps with getting around the stages easier. Later on, you can buy crystals that you can equip to gain a charge attack. The crystals also add elemental damage to your attacks, and that helps with fighting certain enemies. Next up is the magic system. The way that magic works is that after smacking enemies, they will sometimes drop gems. What gems drop off enemies is random, and there are 4 different elements: fire, earth, water, and wind. The order the gems are used is last in, first out, which means that the most recently picked up gem is used first. What spell you cast is based on the first gem and how many matching gems of that type you have in the charge queue. The game does tell you what the monocolor spells are, once you have the slots for them, but all you're being told is the name of the spell and how many gems you need to cast it. What it doesn't tell you is what the spell actually does, or that using multiple gem colors does affect the spell. How the extra gems affect a given spell, I'm not completely sure, but they aren't just being burned through. There are 6 different areas in the game, and each one of them is broken up into smaller stages. The main goal of each stage is to destroy all the monsters on the map and unlock the next one. Due to the game having a rather small draw distance, enemies don't appear until you are close to them. There is a mini-map that shows their positions as red dots, which really helps out when looking for that last pack of monsters you missed. That's all there is as far as progressing through the game. There are no puzzles to solve, you don't run into anyone to talk to while fighting monsters, and cutscenes happen when you first encounter a boss and after boss fights. Visually, the environments you travel through aren't all that interesting. They start off rather mundane, and the farther you progress in the game, the more fantastical the environments become. It's just that it's all stuff that you've probably seen before 1,000 times in other fantasy games. At the end of each dungeon is a boss, and they all have a few things in common. They all have a puzzle component to them, which usually boils down to figuring out how to use magic to deal damage to the boss. Most bosses also have an endless horde of weaker enemies spawning in so you don't run out of gems to cast spells. Once you defeat a boss, you get one of 2 rewards: an extra equipment slot or an extra spell slot. The equipment you can get in the game can be broken down into 6 different item types. There are 4 different item types that augment damage done or taken. These are gloves and shields for physical damage, and wands and charms for magical damage. You can also equip 2 of the same type of damage augmenting item. This allows you to focus on which damage type you prefer. There are also some quality of life items, such as an item to automatically pick up spell gems, or a way to vacuum in money. Then there's the previously mentioned crystals, which enchant your weapon and give you a charge attack. The charge attack you get from the crystal is different from each other and adds a nice bit of flavor to the combat. There are a few problems that are really holding the game back. The first is that the beginning of the game is overly difficult due to lacking equipment, spell slots, and health upgrades. On top of that, the game can be stingy with health drops from defeated enemies, since you need to defeat every enemy in a room the first time you enter it to progress. Eventually, getting hit too many times will drain you of all your health, and when that happens, you're booted out to try again. This leads into the next problem, the level select menu. Okay, you're probably thinking, well, the menu is showing me the level I lost on, I'll just select that one and continue where I left off at. To which the game goes, surprise sucker, welcome to the time trial mode. In time trial mode, you just clear a single room of all the monsters as fast as possible. There's no reward for a fast time, as far as I'm aware. It just seems to be a quick way to select a specific stage without having to run through each area. There's one big difference in how the stage is played in time trials, and that is you cannot change your equipment once you're in a stage. To progress through the dungeon, you need to pick story mode. Thankfully, once you remove the barrier halting your progress through the dungeon, it's gone for good. You just need to hoof it through each room with all the enemies that have respawned, so try not to take too much damage on the way back. Another problem is how the shops work. The shops all have a very basic supply and demand mechanic. Whenever you purchase an item, the price for that item increases. Buying stuff is the simplest way of attaining new equipment and health upgrades. This will quickly cause the prices for the items you want to skyrocket. Now for selling items. Each time you sell a treasure or old equipment, the amount of money you receive for that item decreases. There is no way to reset the shop prices, which means if you really need a duplicate item from the shop, grinding easy-to-get treasures will end up making you need to grind even more later on. There are also two gameplay mechanics that aren't told to you right away. The first is that each area has a hidden treasure chest in it. These chests contain equipment and health upgrades, which really goes a long way in the early game. What you need to do to find the treasure depends on the area you're in. It varies from defeating hidden enemies to traveling across the swamp without touching the water. While you can find the treasures from the beginning of the game, you aren't told about it until after defeating the first boss. One of the buildings in town is a church which has a priest in it that will offer you hints to the treasure in exchange for decreasing your maximum health. Due to the cost of the hints being your health, I feel like all of this does is just encourage save scumming or looking up a guide on the internet. The other mechanic is fishing. After beating a few chapters, a merchant shows up in the tutorial area and talking to him will get you a fishing rod. He will then trade fish for items, but most of the good stuff needs some obscene amount of fish. Fishing works by casting shant into a body of water and waiting for a fish to bite. When you land a fish, a bar pops up under it and it works like an old golf game, in that when the bar fills to the right for power and when it comes back to the left, it's for impact. Each fish has 100 hit points and you have 3 chances to deplete a fish's health, unless you land outside the impact marker, in which case the fish gets off the hook immediately. How fast the bar fills and the size of the impact area are random and depend on the difficulty of the fish you're trying to catch. Overall, I did enjoy my time playing Chantelise. I honestly would rather have preferred a more traditional Zelda-style dungeon diving experience over the stage-based rooms. The combat is a bit basic, but overall it's enjoyable, even if the game is a bit grindy due to how the game's economy works. I think that the game is a fine example of a weekend game. By that, I mean that you can either get your fill of the game or beat it in a few sessions playing it. Chantelise is normally sold on Steam for $10, which is kind of okay at that price, but definitely take a look at the game when it's on sale. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video.